This is going to be a serious video. I'm going to try not to have a whole lot of humor in it because what I'm about to talk about is not going to be very funny. And it's going to make some people mad. It's going to make some people get upset. It's going to make some people think. As you know, my grandchildren were taken by the CPS some time ago. We've been in a mystery about why they were taken from my home. And we know Jackie and him might have some problems, and I'm the first one to vocalize whatever problems they have. I'm the first one to say that, they're young and dumb and that other statement. But they were taken from my home, which, as you know from watching my channel, my home is not exactly a trailer out on the prairie. At any rate, we've been trying to get the CPS to tell us why this occurred. And all they would say is, we have concerns. We have concerns. And I said, well, what are the concerns? And they would say, we can't tell you. We can't tell you. So at one point, I was informed that all the records had been covertly lifted by one of their own people, I believe, and given to Timmy and Jackie. It was the entire CPS record, all medical records, all statements by CPS officers, everything. And I confronted the CPS about it, and I was told, this is impossible. It cannot happen. It takes a long labyrinth of legal procedure to even view these documents, and even then, we block out certain things that will never be seen by eyes outside the CPS. I assure you, I was told by the CPS officer, this can never happen. And what I was saying was, I just want to see the documents and see what they said about me. Well, this can never happen. You can't see it. And these documents are secure. They can never be seen by any eyes outside the CPS. Ruh-roh. Now, I'm not going to read you guys all of this. It's about 400 pages of nonsense. We're going to just go through a few little tidbits here. And I'm going to name names because I've got the names here. And these people are public employees working for the Child Protective Services of the state of Texas. And I will admit before I even start this, I too had concerns for my grandchildren. My son was on the run from a blue warrant. He had a lot of issues. My daughter-in-law has a lot of issues. But as a family, we were trying to pull together to protect the grandchildren, get them in a safe home, and help lead Timmy and Jackie back to productiveness. I'm looking now at a thing called the Child Safety Evaluation and Plan. Okay. Show it to the camera. There it is. I'm not lying. Okay, I won't bore you with scanning it in as a JPEG. You should know I do have it. And this thing, for those of you who don't understand, when these CPS people show up, they pull out a pencil, mind you, and they pencil in a safety plan for children. And it has all kinds of things on it. It says what the child should experience. This particular safety plan was taken on 12/3 of 2009 and signed by one Lorena Flournoy, who works for the Williamson County Child Protective Services. And it says, and I quote, family task, Mr. Timothy Witt and Miss Jacqueline Witt will have no unsupervised visits. It says, and I quote, that the children are to be turned over to Miss Kayla Arthod, Mr. James Arthod, and Miss Sandra Dunn. Remember that name. And they will supervise all contact between the children. This is all very fine, except for one tiny little problem. Some time ago, a young man named Wesley Arthod became enamored with a little girl. I don't want to go into the details, but it was a crime of which he was subsequently convicted and placed on probation. Sandra Dunn had, previous to this, deprived a Mr. Joseph Pacino and Monica Pacino, her daughter and son-in-law, of their children because they too had some issues. and taken them into custody courtesy of the CPS. And these children were over at her house, and Mr. Wesley Arthod found his way over there around these children with full knowledge of Miss Sandra Dunn, and subsequently his probation was revoked, and he is now resting in the Texas Department of Corrections, doing 7 years for his previous sins. This man was under investigation by the CPS for this crime. At the time, they placed my grandchildren in Waco with Kayla Arthod, James Arthod, and Sandra Dunn. He was actually in the building most of the time with my grandchildren there just prior to his arrest and his revocation of probation. The CPS said that they did a thorough investigation of all the peoples in that house. Well, they missed that one, folks. This guy's in prison for messing with a little girl, and he was around my little girl, courtesy of the CPS. Now, phase 2. The CPS writes in a meeting on January the 28th, and I quote again, this is a thing called a status hearing. Now, status hearings where they all meet at a table with the parents and interested parties, and they say this is what we're going to do, and here's how we're going to work this out, and this and this and this. And in the status meeting, they quote on the 28th, see, Tristan was seen, here it is. Tristan is scheduled for a well child exam on February the 11th of 2010. Got dental, he goes all through all that stuff. It is reported that Tristan suffers from epilepsy. His previous caregiver has stated he has previously been prescribed medication for this. However, when he was taken to the state of California, he did not continue to receive his medication. I personally gave the CPS the medication. Tristan has not been reported to have any seizures since coming into care. However, the department, that's the CPS, is requesting all of his medical records from Scott and White so that his pediatrician will have them when he is seen for his well check exam. Never mind the fact that Tristan was under the care of a pediatrician at Scott and White Hospital, and that Judge Hemingway did order the CPS for the children to be returned to their previous doctors for continuing medical care. Now the problem with this is, this was dated on January the 28th, 2010, and we have another family team plan. Again, there it is, family team plan. Somebody drew a cookie on the back of it. And down here, right here, see what the yellow is, folks? Right there. I'm going to read it for you. They had to order the medical records. They apparently didn't know anything about the seizures. They didn't see any seizures. This was beyond their knowledge. But on October the 6th of 2009, they wrote in their own hand, I might add, Tristan has an ongoing medical issue due to seizures. Tristan is expected to be Tristan is expected to be discharged today, 10/6/09, Scott and White Temple. Okay. Reason to believe, conflicting information discussed as where the children have been staying, blase, blase. Okay. Right here in this document, they're saying they're going to order the medical records because they're not quite sure if he has seizures. They ain't been told about it. Right here in their own handwriting, 2 months before, they say they know all about it. In fact, he's in the hospital during the meeting and they discussed it and they wrote it down. That's called a lie, folks. That's called a lie. That's someone ducking and dodging, trying to defend their job at the expense of a child. That's what that is. Ruh-roh. folks, this is out of control. This is just out of control. This is the silliest, most asinine pack of mumbly mumble I've ever seen in my life. These people are paid for by the taxes of the state of Texas. You paid for that. You wrote the check. Every time you go to work, you pay these people to do these things. Well, we won't win because they went to court, got up there in court, and they gave testimony, which I won't read you the volumes of testimony that are perjuries and in errors. But it was one thing after another, and mainly to slander me and my wife. Let's take all this, take a look at it, pass it around. Don't ever see this. Get involved with your kids. Don't ever. They don't play by the rules. They make up the game as we go along.
I like to spend the night with my brother's wife while he works himself to death trying to build her a life.